Ladies and gentlemen, we are live! Who the fuck is that guy?
I love you! My balls are hot.
Yes! We're back again. We're back. Thank you for joining me in a beautiful Saturday edition of Across the Cage. My name is Stefan, and thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining me today. It is always great to sit in the chair and chat shit with you guys. So I appreciate you joining me. I cannot believe the amount of hatred that people have towards opinions in the MMA community. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. I completely understand where I guess the MMA media come from when it comes to people talking about their opinions or voicing their opinions, and the amount of backlash that they get. It's insane. I've never received so much abuse about saying that I didn't want that fight, the GSP versus Khabib fight. It absolutely baffles me that people can just get so nasty and aggressive for no reason at all. And that's fine. I've got thick skin. I don't really care too much. And these people are completely uneducated. Not in the sense of MMA, because everybody's entitled to their own opinion in MMA. But just uneducated as a human being. Somebody tried to call me retarded and he said restarted, and it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. But anyway, this is one thing that I just want to say on that. At the end of the day, every single person is allowed to have their own opinion. You don't have to agree with the opinion, but at the end of the day, you have to respect what they're saying. Whether you agree or disagree is up to you, and it's a different story. And this is what I like to do. I like to get other people's opinions, because I may have one thing to say, and then somebody else will turn around and say something different. And I'll be like, yo, you know what? You actually have a good point. You're actually right. Never get nasty. There's no time for nastiness in this world. We go through enough crap in this world. Just be good people. Just be good people. Just be a good human being. Just live your best life. But really excited for the fights coming up this weekend. UFC Vancouver. Obviously, I'll get into that towards the later stage of the episode. But without further ado, let's jump in to some current events. Beautiful. I don't know why I did that. All right. First bit of news. Khabib Nurmagomedov meets with Russian President Vladimir Putin to celebrate convincing victory at UFC 242. Is there two scarier human beings in the world? It goes to show the magnitude of Khabib's star power over in Russia and over in Dagestan. It's absolutely huge. So I think there was this is the little bit of the conversation that we got here. Where is it say here? Okay, so Putin's turned around and said, "I want to congratulate you. It was a decent fight against a strong and tenacious rival." Khabib turned around and said, "Yes, the opponent was strong and respectful. This time around, I fought against a person who respected me." Wow. Obviously, that's in reference to Conor and all the stuff that went down against Conor. And it's funny because Conor they met, didn't they, mate? I think they met. Putin met McGregor. I think it was at the World Cup. I think there was a photo of them at the World Cup. I believe so. Yeah, there was a photo of them at the World Cup. I think Putin in general is just a fan of sporting stars. I'm pretty sure he's got photos with almost every, probably top 10, if you name the top 10 sporting stars, he's probably got a photo with 50% of them. Ronaldo, Messi, Khabib, Conor. I think he's just a sports fan in general. Or you could have a big wall inside of his palace in Russia, in Mother Russia. Could have a big wall with just pictures of him and celebrities on there. That's what he could have. But hey, who knows? Don't know what his palace looks like. So that's that. There were a couple of fights that were canned, that were chucked in the can, announced over the past couple of days. Thiago Alves is forced out of his fight against Gunnar Nelson at UFC Copenhagen due to illness. So he's come out with a post at Thiago Alves ATT. They said, "Sad news, guys. Unfortunately, due to an unexpected illness, I am forced to withdraw from my fight in Copenhagen September 28th versus Gunnar Nelson. I tried everything I could to stay in the fight, but my team of doctors wouldn't allow me. My goal right now is to get 100% healthy so I can get back to do what I love. I'd like to thank all my fans, teams, blah, 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 blah. After 4 weeks of intense treatment, I should be back to work. November or December, the people will be back." So that's sad. It's sad to see. I would... that was a really interesting fight. It's probably one that Gunnar Nelson needs. They haven't looked for a replacement just yet for Gunnar Nelson. I know that, what is it, 2 weeks now? 2 weeks from today. That fight card's on. So I'm a huge fan of Gunnar Nelson. I'm also a huge fan of Thiago Alves. He's been doing the damn thing for such a long time. So I hope that they find a replacement for Gunnar Nelson. Especially so close to the end of fight camp. I can't imagine what that's like. You know, the only comparison that I can make to, I guess, having a fight canned a week or two before the actual fight date is probably, if, say for example, with football or soccer, and we have a game on a Saturday and it rains on a Thursday or Friday night, and then you have your week preparation of training, and then it comes to a Saturday and they just can it on the day, or even in the worst. You know, if it starts raining on a Saturday morning when you've got this game scattered at Saturday evening, and they can it then, you know, it's preparation all through the week, and then to have it all fall apart at the end of the day. You know, these guys, it's much worse for these guys. They put in a 8 to 12 week fight camp, you know, cutting down weight and whatnot, and have the fight canned. It's not a good feeling. I would imagine not a good feeling at all. The other fight that was canned was one with Mr. Zabit Magomed Sharipov. Zabit Magomed Sharipov is out of his fight against Calvin Kattar, the co-main event. When was his fight scheduled? I don't know why I didn't bring this up. It's a shame. It's a shame for Zabit. Zabit's like the next best thing. Zabit's the next best thing. I think. I want to know why he pulled out. I did bring it up, and it's just frozen on me. This is great. Yes, I love it when things break down. I love it when it freezes. Here we go. It's a beat Magomed Sharipov out of co-main event fight against Calvin Kattar. And this was scheduled for, I believe it was in Massachusetts, October 18th. So we're about a month out. Sources close to the situation confirmed Magomed Sharipov's exit from the fight when speaking to MMA Fighting on Friday. MMA Junkie initially reported the news. The UFC has not officially announced any changes to the card. As of now, there's no words on what exactly forced Magomed Sharipov out of the fight, but it's not expected that the Dagestani native would be out of action for an extended period of time. It's frustrating. I mean, his last win against Jeremy Stevens was people thought it was close. I personally thought that it was a bit of a clinic. You know, it's probably it was Sharipov's toughest challenge to date, but he just controlled that whole fight. He controlled and dominated that whole fight. In that 145-pound division, I think that's one of the next up and coming stars. You know, I would love to see Ortega. I'd like to see Ortega take on Sharipov. I would also like to see... I would like to see him take on Max, really. Frankie Edgar probably could be a good fight as well. Even Jose Aldo. Zabit versus Jose Aldo would be an awesome fight. So, shame that he has been culled from the fight card. Wishing him a speedy recovery and hopefully he gets back to health. This one scares me a little bit. Andrei Arlovski versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik has been set for UFC 244. Two observations from this. The first one is Arlovski absolutely loves a fight. This is his third fight this year. And Rozenstruik is a scary human being. He's a very, very, very scary human being. He's 8-0. He's 8-0 in his MMA career. And he had a 9-second knockout against Alan Crowder at UFC Greenfield. So I do remember watching that fight against Crowder. And man, it's one of those people that come around that I think, and I've said this many times before, and when it comes to the heavyweight division, before you reach the top 5, you can get away with just having striking in a heavyweight fight. You know, you can get away with that. When you get into that top 5, you need to incorporate different aspects here: wrestling, jiu-jitsu, and you need to be, I guess, quick on the feet. Your cardio has to be on point. So I don't know. This fight may play into Rozenstruik's hands, but you know, Arlovski loves a knockout as well, or loves being knocked out as well. So interesting to see how that one plays out. I found this really interesting. So the UFC have come out with a new end-of-year UFC honors to be chosen by Dana White and the fans. So the UFC will recognize UFC's top fighters, performances, and moments. So the awards have been divided up as follows. So they've got the UFC Honors President Choice. So that's obviously chosen by Dana White. And he's got UFC Performance of the Year and UFC Fight of the Year. And then for us, the fans, we get to choose between, and they love a sponsorship as well, Toyo Tires. So the fans' choice is UFC Knockout of the Year, UFC Submission of the Year, UFC Event of the Year, and UFC Comeback of the Year. And they believe these will be announced in early December. So it's another good thing. I love the fact that the UFC over the past couple of years have, I guess, made the fans a little bit more involved with the things that they do. I guess it makes you feel close to the brand. It makes you feel close to the UFC because you know, it's a global phenomenon, I would think, and the popularity of the UFC is just growing. Each week it's just growing and growing and growing. So good for the UFC. Good for the UFC. Donald Cerrone. He's come out and said the original baddest motherfucker, which he is the original baddest motherfucker. The chase for real UFC gold is what matters. And when questioned on the BMF belt, his reply is, "It's all good, man. It is what it is. Doesn't do me any good complaining about it. Masvidal and Diaz, they're both badass dudes. So good for them. That'll be a fight everyone wants to see." And he's turned around after that and he said, "There wasn't really a moment that changed it for me. I just thought the last thing to do in my legacy is definitely earn the title. It sucks to have all these achievements and this great career and not end up with that. It's something that I need." So I guess he was respectful. He was respectful of what they want to do with the BMF belt. But he's as Gaston would say, he's on a mission for gold. So I like I said on Tuesday's episode, I completely agree with what Cerrone says. I think it's a good little gimmick to have if you want to push it, but then it comes to a point where, you know, are we fighting for real belts or are we fighting for novelty belts? And obviously Cerrone has his priority set on just the on the real belt, and he's on a mission for gold. And you know, he's got a tough ass this weekend, very tough ass this weekend. What do we have here? The last bit of news before we can sort of jump into UFC Vancouver. Kevin Lee looks as though he's returning to lightweight. He's eyeing a fight with the next Khabib, Islam Makhachev. So he's come out and said, after looking at the last fight with Khabib, I did an interview before Khabib fought Dustin, and I said I wasn't too impressed. But after seeing the way Khabib handled Dustin, I might want a piece of that cake. I like the biggest target I can find. Right now, everybody sees Khabib as, I mean, they already kind of saw it before, but now I'm even coming around to it. He's the real challenge out there. He's the guy who's going to challenge John Jones for the pound-for-pound title. That's the kind of fight that will get me up. Obviously, he had a failed move to welterweight Again, I thought he looked really good at welterweight, but it just didn't seem like it went his way. I think 155 is his. If he's. I think that 155 is his weight class. Even the fight against Tony, I know that he came into that fight with a staph infection, but he looked good. He looked good against Tony. He looked really good against Tony. So I think I didn't think the move up to 170 did him any justice. I don't think he needed to do it. I think 155 is his weight division. So a fight against Makhachev, if he does well against Makhachev, who they're saying is the next Khabib, then by all means he's still up there. He's still up there in the top 5. I'm a big fan of Kevin Lee. I really like Kevin Lee as a fighter. I think he's very versatile. He's very outspoken at times, but I do think that he is I do think that he's a top contender in that 155. He's ranked 8th at the moment. So you've got Iaquinta fighting in a couple of weeks in Australia. Paul Felder's moved up to 7 in the rankings. Even a fight against Dustin, Kevin Lee versus Dustin would be a decent fight as well. I'd really enjoyed to see that. So he's still right up there. He's still right up there. Maybe he has to look down first before he looks up. So that fight against Makhachev could be the one to make. All right, let's leave the news. That's basically all the news and trending topics and current events for this week. Let's move away from that, and we'll dive into UFC Fight Night Vancouver. There are two things before we, I guess, dive into the full card. Andrew Sanchez versus Marvin Vettori has been scrapped from the card. Unfortunately, that fight has been canned, and I believe it was due to an injury or an illness by Sanchez earlier this week. Here we go. Sources close to the situation confirmed that Sanchez fell ill earlier this week and would be unable to compete on Saturday night. So that fight has been scrapped. If you're looking forward to Andrew Sanchez versus Martin Vettori, I do apologize to bring you the bad news. All right. Let us bring up this whole bloody fight card, because it is a great fight card this weekend. Obviously, you got the main event of Mr. Cowboy Cerrone and Gaethje Justin Gaethje. But underneath that is a relatively exciting card. Just scrolling through the prelims. I think Lewis Smolka versus Ryan McDonald will be an exciting fight. You got Brad Katona taking on Hunter Azor. That'll be an exciting fight as well. Marcin Tybura versus Augusto Sakai. Be an interesting main attraction for the prelims at heavyweight. And then you got the main card with Jimmy fucking Crute against Misha Cirkunov. Uriah Hall versus Antonio Carlos Jr., otherwise known as Shoeface. Miguel Pereira taking on Tristan Connolly. Todd Duffy returns. I believe he's returned after such a long layoff against Jeff Hughes. Glover Teixeira taking on Nikita Krylov, and Cowboy and Gaethje at the top. How long has Todd Duffy been out for? Todd Duffy. I think he's been out for a hot minute. He's 33 years of age. Let's see when he last fought. 2015 was his last fight. Wow. 2015. He had a loss to Frank Mir on July of 2015. That's 4 years. 4 years without a fight. 4 years without a fight. That's crazy. That's crazy. He's taken on Alistair Overeem as well. He's only 9-3. He's got the fastest knockout in UFC heavyweight history. In 7 seconds. 7-second knockout. Rosenstruck has a 9-second knockout, so it doesn't. I mean, it's close, but not too close. But being with a 4-year layoff, it's very hard to it's very hard to predict what somebody can do. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I don't know. All I know is that he hasn't fought in a very long time. I don't really know too much about Todd Duffy. I mean, back at the time he was around fighting, he did seem like a prolific knockout artist, because all of his fights, whether winning or losing, all of these fights didn't go to a decision. He's had 9 wins and all of them by knockout. So I guess that's the selling piece there for Todd Duffy. But he's coming up against Jeff Hughes. Jeff Hughes, I think he's a little bit more experienced than Todd Duffy. Jeff Hughes. Well, if your nickname is Lights Out, then you're speaking to a bad motherfucker. Yeah, 10-2. Oh, I mean, they're relatively close. So the last time Jeff Hughes fought was early in the year 2019 against Maurice Green, and he lost via a split decision. But before that, he was in the Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series, and he won that one in the first round via knockout in punches. So he's more active. He's probably had about 2 to 3 fights in a year. So he's the more active fighter, and he's probably the one that I guess you can look at it in 2 ways. I guess you can look at it as a massive opportunity for Jeff Hughes to come in and take out a relatively big name, so to speak, or potentially a tune-up fight for Todd Duffy. Duffy. So again, he was, I believe, if my memory is correct, I believe when he first jumped into the scene, he was sort of considered like that next thing at heavyweight. He was considered that the next guy up at heavyweight. But for whatever reason, I vaguely remember it. I think it was some sort of dispute or some sort of issue with Dana or something like that, which is why he hasn't really fought since then, which is weird. Why wouldn't you go to another organization? But regardless, it's a interesting heavyweight fight. So what do I think will happen? I probably think that hard to pick. I'm going to go Todd Duffy knockout round 1. That's what I'm going to do. That's my pick for Todd Duffy versus Jeff Hughes. Glover Teixeira, Nikita Krylov. Glover Teixeira's been around for a hot minute, hasn't he? I think what a lot of people forget, especially with a lot of these heavyweights, is a lot of these heavyweights started off, or they are all Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts. And this is what I'm saying. When it comes to the upper echelon of heavyweights, you need to be a little bit more well-rounded. Now, the only issue with this heavyweight division is that it's so historic. All of these fighters in the heavyweight division are so old. It's crazy to think that all these fighters are still fighting. Just for example, when you think of JDS, how long has been doing it for? When you think of even DC, how long DC's been doing it for? Cain Velasquez, Alistair Overeem, Olenek is up there as well. You got your young fighters. You got Tuivasa, Walt Harris. You got Curtis Blaze up there. Ngannou's quite young as well. Even Derek Lewis and Volkov, they're kind of in that stage where they're about to tip over towards the next sort of stage of retirement, so to speak. But nonetheless, been a very interesting fight at heavyweight. I think this one finishes either in a Teixeira TKO or a Krylov submission in round number 1. I think you see a submission via Teixeira or a knockout from Krylov, or you can even see a submission for Krylov too, because Krylov is nasty on the ground. Krylov is nasty on the ground, so I think I'm going to go with. But see, even Teixeira could submit as well. Even Teixeira could go as well, because they can both hang on the mat. They can both hang on the mat. I think that. Jesus Christ, Teixeira TKO round number 2. That's what I'm going for. All right, Uriah Hall against Shoeface. Antonio Carlos Jr. Uriah Hall, Antonio Carlos Jr. Has it been any more of a frustrating career? Has everybody had a more frustrating career in the UFC than Uriah Hall? Uriah Hall is so talented. He is so talented and he's so well-rounded. But it's so frustrating to see that he had to basically fight to keep his career. You know, if he had lost that fight, who was it against? I think it was his last fight or the fight prior to that. If he had lost that fight, it was basically done. It was basically done for him. Let me just bring up his record. Bevan Lewis it was. Or was it Jotko? No, I believe it was Jotko. No, it wasn't Jotko. It wasn't Jotko at all. Because he lost to Whittaker, he lost to Brunson, he lost to Musasi, and then he won against Jotko, and then he lost to Palacosta. And I think it was a fight because it was lost 4 in his last 5, and he had to win the one against Bevan Lewis to stay in the game. And, that was back in December of last year, of 2018, and he got the job done. So again, it's such a frustrating career because he's lost to Weidman, he's lost to current one champion Onglang Nsa, he's lost to Gastelum, but he's beaten people like Chris Lee and Thiago Santos. He's beaten Musasi. You know, so he's got decent names on his resume, and he's been fighting for such a long time. Again, it's so frustrating because all the talent's there, and you kind of sit there when you watch him. You kind of sit there and you go, just fucking do it. I mean, it's harder for us, I guess, watching. We can sit here and be, couch coaches, but you know, it's so frustrating to watch because you know that all the things that are there for him, all the things and all the traits are there for him to execute. And you know that he's that well rounded. He just needs to go out and do it. So it's just very frustrating because you want to see him do well, and I think that he still can do really well. You know, he's still relatively young. You know, he's I can't take that back. He's 35. He's 35. So this could be his last run. You know, if he faces a loss here, it's going to be tough for him. It's going to be very tough for him. And he's got a tough task against 29-year-old Antonio Carlos Jr. I want to know why they call him Shoeface. I want to know why they call him Shoeface. Let me. I'm going to Google this right now. Shoeface. So his nickname it's in Portuguese. Cara de sapato, which means shoe face. Cara de sapato. Sapato. But I don't know I would love to know where the nickname came from. Anyway, that's not the point. You know, Shoeface. Shoeface is an exciting fighter, nonetheless. The last fight he lost by unanimous decision to Ian Heinz. Before that, he's submitted Tim Bosch, Jack Marshman, and Eric Spicely. I think this could be a tough night I would really love to see Uriah Hall get the knockout victory, but I do think this one gets taken to the ground. I think Shoeface submits Uriah Hall in the first round. I think you see a submission from Shoeface in the first round. The fight that I'm most excited for is Jimmy F'n Crute. Jimmy F'n Crute taking on Misha Cirkunov. You know, as an Australian, if you do not say Jimmy F'n Crute, then you know you're not Australian. You're not Australian. You know, and Jimmy Crute, as he said, he's not here to fuck spiders. So I'm really excited to see what he does. You know, he's younger than me. He's 23 years old, and he's so mature for his age. I'm really excited to see what Jimmy Crute does this weekend. This is his toughest fight to date against Misha Cirkunov. Misha Cirkunov, I think his last fight he was knocked. I think his last fight he was knocked out by who was it? Johnny Walker. Johnny Walker, I believe he got knocked out. I can check his resume. How cool is that? Like, how interesting is that these days I can just open up my laptop and just type in Misha Cirkunov, and I can see his resume. I can see his fight resume. You know, if I'm looking for a job, I need to submit my resume. I need to type it up myself and submit it. It's crazy. People just come up here and do. Anyway, yeah, that flying knee in 36 seconds, and then Johnny Walker injured himself. He popped his shoulder out in 47 different places. But before that fight against Johnny Walker, he submitted Pat Cummins, and he lost to Teixeira and Ozdemir. But he's also beaten Krylov. He's beaten Kuzilaba. He was on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 fight win streak before he lost to Ozdemir. So, again, he's very, very, very experienced, and he's 32. He's quite young for that light heavyweight division, so he's very experienced. He's been fighting since 2010. And again, he's one of those guys that is relatively well-rounded. So it's going to be a tough ask for Jimmy Crute to go in there and get the job done. Jimmy Crute is undefeated. He's 10-0. I believe he made his start on the Tuesday Night Contender Series. However, if he didn't show in the 3 fights we've seen him in the UFC that he's got everything, he's got every aspect down packed, then you haven't been watching Jimmy Crute. At 23, we've seen him in the UFC, mind you. We saw him knock out Chris Birchler in the Contender Series. We saw him submit Paul Craig. Just think about that for a second. Submitting Paul Craig. Paul Craig in that light heavyweight division is a submission artist. You know, he's so well known for just popping out a submission relatively late in the fight to get the job done. He submitted Paul Craig with a Kimura. And he knocked out Sam Alvey in his last fight at UFC 234. So if that doesn't show you, I guess, the versatility of Jimmy Crute's game, not to mention that he's so quick and agile, maybe I'm just being completely biased. Maybe I'm just being biased to Jimmy Crute because he's Aussie. But Jimmy Crute, I think, is the future of this light heavyweight division. I think Jimmy Crute has it all. If he beats Cirkunov this weekend, that'll definitely pop him up to in that top 15. Cirkunov is ranked 15th, so if he does get the win here, it's only up from there. It's only up from there for Jimmy Crute. So I wish him all the best of luck. It's a really, really tough ask. I'm going to predict Jimmy fucking Crute to get the job done via TKO in the second round. Jimmy Crute, TKO, second round. Wow. I got really emotional there about Jimmy Crute. All right. Cowboy Cerrone versus Justin Gaethje. Cowboy Cerrone versus Dustin Gaethje. I'm telling you, I believe I have CTE. I think I've got CTE. Wow. So the last time we saw Donald Cerrone, he obviously had that issue. He was basically getting pieced apart by Tony Ferguson. And then he blew his nose and blew his eye out. And the fight had to be stopped. But I think before that, Donald Cerrone was... his ranking shows it. You know, he's ranked 4 in the most stacked division in the UFC today. Hard to say what happens here. Like I said, I'd put any amount of money down at the fact that they're going to call out the winner of this fight is going to call out Conor McGregor. I think that's what they're either chasing the McGregor fight or they want the strap. Justin Gaethje is a scary man. I think Justin Gaethje will want to, knowing Cerrone's ground game and knowing how good that Cerrone does off of his back. I think Gaethje, and I've said this before, his previous fights, I think everybody's been saying it and screaming out that we just want to see him utilize his wrestling. We want to see him come out and utilize his wrestling because he's a great wrestler. But maybe against Cerrone, I think the idea against Cerrone is, and Cerrone is a slow starter. He tends to start fights relatively slow, and that's when he can get caught. And that's probably when he's most vulnerable. The more that you allow Cerrone to get into the fight, the more the fight plays into his hands, and the more that his experience takes over. So I think Justin Gaethje has probably a 1 round window where he can come out all guns blazing and come at Cerrone. I think Gaethje will want to keep it on the feet. I don't think he'll want to take Cerrone down. As I mentioned, I think Cerrone does work off of his back, and he can submit you from any angle. And Gaethje will welcome. I mean, have you seen two tougher fighters coming against each other? This is why this fight's so exciting. Have you seen two tougher fighters come up against each other? This fight doesn't go to the judges at all. Doesn't go to the judges. Doesn't go to a decision. I think the idea for Gaethje will be probably to get inside of Cerrone's pocket and utilize the striking, utilize leg kicks, jabbing to, I guess, take over. I think that's where Cerrone sees adversity. I think Cerrone sees adversity when you stay outside of his kicking range and utilize the striking to take over. So hard one to pick, very hard one to pick. I do think that this doesn't go to the judges. I don't think you see more than 2 rounds. Actually, I don't think you see more than three rounds. I'm going to go Donald Cerrone submission round 2. Donald Cerrone submission round 2. That's what I'm going to go. That's what I'm going to go with. Donald Cerrone submission round 2. What's next for these two? The winner of this fight, I was going to call out McGregor. I don't think they're there for the Khabib fight yet. I think they're going to call out McGregor and look for that one. Very hard to say if Cerrone loses what he's going to do next. Justin Gaethje will always stick around. I think he needs to move away from that Homer Simpson style fighting where he just walks forward and doesn't give a fuck about getting hit. He just walks forward and sort of weathers that storm if he can. So if he moves away from that style and plays a little bit more safer, I think he is a dangerous fighter at 155. And for Cerrone needs no explanation. If you have heard of the UFC before, you know what Cerrone does. You know Donald Cerrone and how much of a badass he is. So he needs no introduction. So I'm really excited for this whole fight card. Looking forward to watching it tomorrow on ESPN and ESPN Plus. Or if you have Fight Pass, you can watch it on Fight Pass. Enjoy the fights. Have fun. Stay safe. I'll break it all down and discuss it all next week on Tuesday. And until then, take care. Enjoy your weekend. Ciao.